All right, everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this video is all about the integration test that I added to the back end of this project. So the integration testing is quite easy if you decide to use test containers as your framework to write the test, and it makes it easy, organize everything for you. So if you want to make use of test containers, then in your pom.sml file you want to add the details to your pom.sml file. So I've searched for test, and I know that I've got it added here. So you need to add a dependency, as in this dependency. So if you could go to, if you already have the project installed, then the next thing you can do is, all right, so for me it was easier to add it at the Visual Studio. So you head off to use Visual Studio, because I don't know how I get it done on Aqua, so I'm using Visual Studio at this point. My Visual Studio opened, and in the backend I'm into my backend folder, and then you want to do Control P, yeah, so it's Control Shift and Command Shift and P, and this is what you get. And if we say springboot initialize, I'm just going to say springboot add status here, springboot add status, right? And then what it does, it tells you the dependencies you have, and you want to search for test containers, right? And that's the one that you want to select, test containers. And then if you select it, then you click enter. Because I already have, when you are done, you click the enter button. Because I already have, I don't need to add it. But that's how easy it is to add it into your project. Just click here, yeah, and then it will be added to your pom.sml file. Let me just come off this one. That's how easy. I'm not sure how to add it in Aqua, but in Visual Studio it's easy. It's quite easy, and most of the stuff that I added to my pom.sml, I added it there because it checks for it kind of like let you know, so that you don't add mismatch versions, and that can be a headache to sort out if you are developing with framework like Spring Boot. All right, so once you have test containers, you want the once you add it, it would add this one, and it would also add the Spring Boot test containers, the right version to the one you already have. Okay, so what will happen is then if you want to write a test, I wanted to write a test for my controller. I'm thinking about integration test. So what I do is I go into the whatever controller I want to write a test for. So we go to the controller, go up, let's say user controller. I want to write a test for user controller. I make sure I'm in the thing, and then I go into generate. A similar thing that you do in Visual Studio, and then you say write a test, and then it will tell you what name of the test you want to write, and click OK. And it will basically take a look at what you have here and tell you where you want to start, and then you can start. It will create the foundation for you. Like for example, these tests that I've got here, it created something like which means for find all users method for that particular controller. But then you have to write these you have to write all these by yourself. So for example, this particular test, initially when I first started writing the test, I look into using Docker stated what type of database I wanted to use and the YAML file. You can also direct it at YAML file, but that makes it slow because you got a lot of stuff packed up in your YAML file, all the dependencies and all that stuff. That makes it very slow. However, if you use the test containers, as I said before, then you don't need to do this. All you have to do is write your annotation for your test container at the top of your class, your test class, and then you want to say at springboot test. If you don't do this, you'll get some problems, yeah. And then you want to say web environment is equals springboot test because web environment the random port, so that will set up a port and all that stuff for you. And then you want to say transactional, that will stop your test from, like, Spring Boot needs to be able to handle your test. I've had a lot of problems with my work because I did not add transactional to it, and sometimes it wouldn't work here or work over there, and then you get failures. So the same thing you need to write with the test so that Spring Boot will manage a whole lot of stuff behind your work for you. So you need these 3 annotations on top of every test that you write, okay? All right, and then so this is an example of a test where it's actually created for the find all users method in my controller for the user controller. So if you this one says should find all the users. All right, so it's actually using the object, and then it's using something called REST template. Now REST template is something that you use to write the test, and it holds it's like, for example, it will hold the whatever it is you are getting in there, and then you can use it to do whatever you want. If you don't use the REST template, you will have a bit of problems. I can't go into any deeper detail than I already know, so do research and find out what it is. So then it uses the same endpoint that we are using. So this is the endpoint I'm using to get all my users in my controller. So if I was to go back to my controller and look for a bit where I'm doing a get all users, you can see that I've got an endpoint there, and obviously this API is called user. So this API is called user. So then / that endpoint, this endpoint, and therefore if we go back to the test, that is exactly what's happening here, and it's using the user class. So everywhere I've gone, all the tutorials they say that integration test is black box, but I can argue that it's both black and white. The reason why it's white box, it makes use of white box technique, is because of this. Look, right? So in a high level black box technique test, you don't need to write these. You don't need to know what class this belongs to. Don't need to know the inside of the code. Here you don't need to know the inside of the code, but you need to. All right, everyone. So I'm just taking a little break from halfway because I didn't show fully what I was trying to say. So as you can see right at the end here, so we got the REST template, and then we making a call to the endpoint, and then we say what method we want, which is a get method. Right, obviously a get method, we don't add a request entity with it, so no body with it. But at the end of it, we say what class we want to use. I'm saying this is white box technique. This is what I'm explaining in this video. I'm saying this is white box technique. So integration test is both black box and white box technique. You can see some black box here, and you can see some white box here. It's not completely black box. And as I go on to explain myself, I'll go back to where I was to explain myself about postman test and also rest assured test, which I believe is completely black box, because all you need to know is your input, your request body if you have one, And what method it is your input, your base API, your host or whatever that is, and then you need your endpoints, and then what you assert against whatever you want to assert. Is it positive or negative? Is it 201 status, 200 status, or 401 if something isn't right, Yeah, so then that is completely black box. We don't need to know what's underneath. We just need to know how it works, and then give it what we need, and then come back with what I want, what I'm expecting. You understand? Whereas this one goes a bit more deeper. If you don't have the user, if you don't pass this user class here, which in most of the video I'm talking about here, I'm not showing this part, but this is what I mean. If you don't pass this here, it's not gonna work. Yeah. And for you to say users.class, it means some form of black box. Okay, so you can write it, you can register on a website, but you don't know if the class you are calling is users or registers or whatever. You just do it. You don't need it. You are just completely black box. But this one uses both white box and technique and black box. Although you don't go into it deeper in terms of white box, you don't have to know but you need to know the class. So I can understand what they mean by black box, but I think some white box is here. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Yeah, some things that is white box. So we are using some form of white box testing here, right? That's what I believe. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I see this as white box. Okay, and for example, rest assured, we can say rest assured API test is black box. In such a way, you don't need to know the inside. All you need to know is the endpoints and what your expectation is. Is it 401? Is it 201? Is it 200? Is it whatever? So that's what you need to know, and then you need to just tailor your test to it and say, hey, this is what I do, this is the input, give me this expectation. That is completely black box, right? But this what we've got here is also making use of white box techniques, right? The test that we write in Postman just needs the base URL, then it needs the API itself, and then it needs the endpoint, and then whatever information you need to put into it, and whatever back what data are you putting into it, and so forth, and then you just work with it, right? That's black box. You don't need to know what's going on inside here. We need to call out to the users class, although we don't need to know much. I think it's both used, because without calling out to this user class, the test won't work. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, is both black box and white box. So then we just using our logger to log the info. I do this for a lot of my debug. And then we say that I said that the length of the user is not enough, and then I'm saying that I said that arrays is present, so you will find the first user, that there's got to be something in the database. So I'm making sure that something is in the and that makes it pass. Then the next test is so if there's nothing in the database, then obviously this will fail, right? Find a user by a certain name. So I'm presenting it with the same endpoint that we use, where we supply the username, right? So it's a get method. We are using the user class again, and we are storing it into this object, and then we are asserting with that object. Yeah, so we're saying assert that the status is okay, because we can find this user, then the status is okay, and then we say make sure that the response body is not a null. Something has to come with the response body. So that this is the test that I'm writing here. then I dive into it a bit more. End the video here and then continue the next one on the next video. So see you in the next video. Thank you for coming to my channel.